Hello, BookTube, and greetings from the bowels of a rainy day in Boston, where I'm hoping that I can redress a lack from yesterday. We didn't do any mail yesterday. That's not good. So, I have mail today. I thought we'd go through that and see what is squeal-worthy. Now, this is a fairly big morning shipment for mail. There may be more later today, and it ends in a couple of boxes, so the chances are good. So let's start with this tiny little thing. And see how we start things off. Oh my. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, this is from Princeton University Press. This is the finished copy of Timothy Beale's The Book of Revelation. This is a biography of the Book of Revelation, the weirdest book of the Bible. And this comes out in a week. No, this comes out today. It's just a little thing. I think I got the advanced copy of this, and I haven't read it yet, and ordinarily I would jump all over biblical history, but the Book of Revelations just has always bored me, so I think that's probably the reason why I didn't prioritize this, but I clearly need to read it. That is due. That is due. Boy, oh boy. All right, well, that's Bean, do you want this to play around with? Oh, I can't believe you grabbed that glove. What is your fascination with these gloves? Oh, you can have this instead of the glove. Don't you want to see? Don't your fans want to see you? Oh, there you are. Oh, there she is. Okay. All right, so we'll start off with religious history. That's good. All right, so let's move on here. What's this next one? A finished copy of something? Oh, great. Fantastic. Okay, this is due any day now, too, as well. Let's see here. Yeah, this is due on October 30th. This is due next week. And we've already seen it on this channel, and I've already read it. I thought it was wonderful. This is by Michael Cody Morgan, and it is the final act. And for those of you who aren't bitterly old, you will need both of those gentlemen identified. This is United States President Gerald Ford, our only unelected president, and that is Soviet Premier Leonid Brezhnev. And this book is about the Helsinki. Oh, goodness. The Helsinki Final Act was a watershed of the Cold War. Signed by 35 European and North American leaders at a summit in Finland in the summer of 1975, the agreement presented a vision for peace based on common principles and cooperation across the Iron Curtain. The Final Act is the first in-depth account of the diplomatic saga that produced this historic agreement. And this author... that would make it valuable anyway, as a book to have on your history shelf, but this author, mercifully, has a wonderful eye for personalities. So, you could easily write a book like this. I mean, it's the plot, the pub sheet is relatively true. There's been almost no modern, systematic, popular history of this era, and almost no popular history, broad-scale appeal, mainstream analysis of Ford's time in office at all. So, having staked out that subject on that ground, you could easily write a book without the kind of storytelling flourishes that this author brings to the task. You could easily not have done that. I would still have had to slog my way through this book. But instead, I loved it. So I'm glad to have a finished copy. That's great. All right, let's move on here. Still firmly in the realm of nonfiction. Oh, let's see here. What on earth? Okay, this comes out next week. This is Radio Flyer, 100 Years of America's Little Red Wagon. For those of you who aren't American, that was let me see if I can get you a picture of this. This was an absolute staple of childhood. Okay, can we get a nice clear picture? We've got, oh boy, well this is full of archival photographs. But I want there we go. That is a Radio Flyer. They were amazing. It was amazing the number of things you could do with a Radio Flyer. It was also amazing in small town Iowa the amount of trouble you could get into with a simple thing like a wagon. I didn't know there was going to be a history. That's wonderful. So what have we got here? Radio Flyer has been called an icon of Americana. It certainly is. It is, for a certain generation, it is absolutely synonymous with childhood. When Colin Powell needed a symbol for his philanthropic endeavor, America's Promise, he used a little red wagon. When Bob Dylan needed to perfect the perfect image of nostalgic love for his song, he wrote about a little red wagon. His ghostwriter did. And he was told that that's what the song was about because he can't read the lyrics. But anyway, let's press on. Radio Flyer is a cultural touchstone for people of all ages, and now this collectible must-have keepsake is sure to create even more fans. How wonderful! So this is going to be a full history of the Radio Flyer. How amazing! And it's full of archival photos. There is one of the Radio Flyer's architectural super hobbies from 100 years ago. All right, fantastic. Wow, I didn't see that coming. Okay, so great. Now let's move on. We're still operating in a fiction-free zone. But then again, that's probably why you come to this channel, right? I mean, you can get fiction nattering everywhere on BookTube. I very much love nonfiction. I will talk about the made-up stories, obviously. But, what's that? Oh. Actually, I shouldn't kid myself. I know exactly why you come to this channel, and it has nothing to do with me or books. It has to do with my little 15 pounds of terror. Oh, no. All right, well, we have a novel. For next year, it's for January. It's by Lindsay Fay, and it is The Paragon Hotel. From the critically acclaimed author of Jane Steele and the Gods of Gotham trilogy, comes The Paragon Hotel, a riveting multi-level thriller, according to Kirkus Reviews. What do they know? With up-to-the-moment parallels to what is happening in America today. In the author's intricate new book, a gutsy gun moll flees Prohibition-era Harlem for Oregon's elegant Paragon Hotel, where the exclusively black residents and a chilling missing child crisis unlock new worlds she couldn't have imagined. When Alice, quote-unquote, nobody, James, was growing up in early 1900s Harlem, she never thought she'd end up working for a mobster who valued her uncanny ability to be invisible in plain sight. Oh. Okay. Well, I'm just nerdy enough to wish that this were the Alice James instead of a character named Alice James. It would be fun to have a murder mystery starring Alice James. In fact, wasn't there one? Wasn't there? Alice James was the extremely eloquent, extremely well-read hypochondriac sister of William and Henry James, and I could swear there was a murder mystery starring the three of them. I think in which Alice never gets out of bed. Don't I remember that? Oh, that's going to bug me. I think I not only read that, but reviewed it. See, this is what happens when you are a form of shrubbery growing everywhere in the book world. You start to forget what you've reviewed. I will look into it. I will look into it. But even so, even though this isn't the Alice James, this still sounds wonderful. Okay, so a gun moll flees to Oregon. All right, let's move on. Let's go to this next one here. You want this thing, baby bean? You want this? You have barely touched the last one. Oh. All right. We are not doing fiction anymore. Oh my. What is this? It's got schmutz on the cover. But this is for next year, and this is squeal-worthy. This is very squeal-worthy. This is by Kate Hubbard, and it is called Devices and Desires, and it is a book about Bess of Hardwick. Bess of Hardwick and the Building of England. This was, for those of you who maybe aren't up on your Elizabethan history, Bess of Hardwick is an utterly fascinating figure in history. I have, I think, every biography of her, every major biography of her that's been written. She was insanely wealthy. Biographers tend to say that she was wealthier than any woman in the kingdom except Elizabeth I. But that's actually not true. in terms, if we understand wealth to mean what we do understand it to mean, which is disposable income at our fingertips, worth at our fingertips, under our control. Nobody calls a line worker in at the cafe in Disneyland as wealthy as the Disney Corporation. Our definition of wealth is not just money; it's how much of it you command. And if that is true, and that is obviously the case, then Bess of Hardwick was much more wealthy than Elizabeth I. But she was unconventional. She took full advantage of the custom of the day was that widows were granted a lot more social freedom than women who hadn't first married and then buried a husband. Once you were a widow, and this was true for centuries in English society, once you were a widow, you had a kind of quasi-independence socially. It was kind of amazing. And Bess of Hardwick was a widow many times over, and built, of course, Hardwick Hall, which is it's a tourist destination in England. I strongly advise you all to go there if you have a chance. It's amazing. And this is a new book about her. What have we got here? This is the critically acclaimed author of Serving Victoria, brilliantly illuminates the life of little-known Bess Hardwick, next to Queen Elizabeth I, the richest and most powerful woman in 16th century England. Okay, all right. I don't know about power, but she was wealthier than Queen Elizabeth I. If what you mean by that is I see a house I want to buy, and you see a house you want to buy, which of us can buy it? Which is how we think, idiomatically of wealth. Aided by a quartet of judicious marriages and a shrewd head for business, Bess of Hardwick rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most respected and feared countesses in Elizabethan England. An entrepreneur who built a family fortune, created glorious houses, the last and greatest built when she was a widow in the 1570s, and was deeply involved in matters of court, including the custody of Mary, Queen of Scots, which was the subject of, as long as we're, skirting the boundaries of the made-up stories, it was the subject of Philippa Gregory novel that doesn't get as much praise as it deserves. The Other Queen is an amazing book. Wow, okay, so this is a book about Bess of Hardwick. All right, I am on board. That's next year, so we don't have to worry about it yet. Let's see here. This is, I must admit, a fairly good mail haul so far. What do you think? Oh, my goodness gracious. Okay. All right. This is, let's see here. This is by Adam Higginbotham, and it is Midnight in Chernobyl. A new book in the coming year on the Chernobyl disaster. The definitive, dramatic, untold story of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant disaster based on original reporting and new archival research. Don't know how much of that will be different from the book that Sergei Plokhy wrote on the same subject this year, which was tremendously good. So this will probably cover a lot of the same ground. Those archives, some of those archives are new to the story of Chernobyl, and they are now open, and they are open to anybody. So it's no fault of this guy that a historian got there before him. I'm wondering what he will bring to this story that perhaps wasn't in that earlier book. Let's see here. When reactor number 4 of the Chernobyl Atomic Energy Station exploded, triggering the world's worst nuclear disaster, tens of millions of people as far as mainland Europe feared deadly contamination. Over the last 30 years, this singular industrial accident has lodged itself in the collective nightmares of the world, a symbol of progress gone mad, the costs and consequences of which remain unclear today. Okay, all right, but if you read Sergei Plokhy's, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name, but if you read his account of Chernobyl, which is incredibly good, it's amazingly enjoyable reading for such a horrific subject, then you realize that yes, Chernobyl, what did that say? That it is lodged itself in the collective nightmares of the world, a symbol of progress gone mad, the costs and consequences of which remain unclear even today. Maybe in a certain reductive public view of the disaster, but really when you read about it, what it becomes a shorthand for is not the peril of modernity gone awry, or the price of modernity or whatever. It's the price of the choking Soviet impulse for compartmentalizing information and turning everything into propaganda, so that even when the Soviet nuclear authorities knew what was going on and knew the extent of how bad it was, they still tried to clamp down on the spread of information, which was really harmful. It caused the whole thing to be much worse than it needed to be in terms of getting the word out, in terms of panic, in terms of preparation. Let's see here. Chernobyl was and has remained shorthand for the spectral horrors of radiation poisoning, for a dangerous technology slipping its leash, for ecological frailty, and for what can happen when a dishonest and careless state endangers its citizens and the entire world. The real story of the events of April 26, 1986, clouded by the secrecy and deliberate confusion created by the Soviet state that excelled in propaganda, okay, there we go, remains in dispute, a confusion only compounded by the fear and distrust of the rest of the world. It's a terrific story. It's gripping. And, of course, it's not over, because the Chernobyl plant is still a very active danger. If it's enormous and enormously expensive housing apparatus, if anything were ever to happen to that, or if it were to outlive its own effectiveness, we'd be dealing with Chernobyl all over again. And when you study what happened and how it happened, you realize that it could have happened anywhere and can still happen anywhere. It's an amazing subject. Wow, I can't wait to read this. Okay, so this comes out in mid-February. So I will wait to read it because it's in the new year. But that's a great subject. Fantastic. More books the merrier. So let's move on to the next one. It's heavy. Could be a finished copy of something. Oh yes, it's a finished copy of something. Ooh. Ooh. Are you getting tired? She loses energy completely when it's rainy. She just has no interest in anything. She needs sunlight. She needs sunlight to be flowing in. Okay. Fantastic. This comes out in early November, and it's one of the reasons why I've mentioned ad nauseum on this channel that I have a year-end best and worst books of the year feature that I have been doing forever. And, of course, one of the lead categories is biography, my own favorite kind of writing. And I've mentioned on this channel a few times that even though we're heading into the month of November and I do a lot of advanced reading, I have left spots open in all of those categories for latecomers, for late entries in all of those categories, things that might blow me away, things that perhaps I haven't read yet, things that are coming out at the tail end of the year. And when it comes to biography, this is one of them. I have the advanced copy, but I have not read it. And the book comes out in early November. And this is Zachary Leader's, the second volume of his biography of Saul Bellow. Big, thick, heavy thing. The first volume had, some of you may remember, it had a black and white cover with Saul Bellow as a super hottie, as a teenage super hottie. This is the far more sordid, far better documented, and far more interesting latter acts of his life. The latter acts in which two things happened at relatively the same time. He wrote his best books, and he, in his personal life, descended into absolutely monstrous behavior. And I don't know that those two things are unconnected, but one way or another, this is a perfect example of why I leave spots open on my categories, because what are the chances that this won't be brilliant? Anyway, let's read a bit about it here. With this second volume of the life of Saul Bellow, when it opens, Bellow at 49 is at the pinnacle of American letters, rich, famous, critically acclaimed. The expected trajectory is one of decline. Volume 1, rise. Volume 2, fall. Bellow never fell, producing some of his greatest fiction, including Mr. Sandler's Planet and Humboldt's Gift, all his best stories, winning 2 more National Book Awards, a Pulitzer Prize, and a Nobel Prize. Turn page here. You're never fully dressed without a smile. So, in this volume, his life away from the desk, including his love life, is, if anything, more dramatic than in Volume 1. In the public sphere, he was embroiled in controversy over foreign affairs, race, religion, education, social policy, and the state of culture. Wow, fantastic. Boy, oh boy, okay. All right. Well, great, I have the finished copy now. I don't need to bother with the advanced copy. I will just dig right into this. Boy, oh boy, fantastic. Okay, so a major work of biography, right on the doorstep of November. That's all right. Let's move on here. Let's see what we have next here. It's one of these stamped envelopes. You want that, Bean? You're running out of steam very fast, aren't you? What have we got here? Oh, okay. All right, fantastic. This is The End of the Myth by Greg Grandin, the author of Fordlandia. This comes out next year, and it's about the American myth of the frontier. No myth in American history has been more powerful or more central to the American identity than that of the pioneers advancing across an endless frontier. Symbolizing a future of endless promise, it was the foundation of the United States' belief in itself as an exceptional nation, democratic, individualistic, forward-looking. Today, though, America has a new symbol, the border wall. In The End of the Myth, historian and Pulitzer Prize finalist Greg Grandin limbs, L-I-M-N-S, if you don't use the word in real life, don't use the word in writing, limbs the meaning of the frontier throughout the full sweep of American history. For centuries, America's constant expansion served as the gate of escape, helping to deflect domestic political and economic conflicts outward. But this deflection meant the country's problems, particularly its entrenched racism and inequality, were never confronted directly. And now, the combined catastrophe of the 2008 financial meltdown and our unwinnable, unending wars in the Middle East have slammed this gate shut, bringing political passions that had long been directed elsewhere back home. In this new reality, Grandin says, that explains the rise of reactionary populism and racist nationalism, the extreme anger and polarization that catapulted Trump to the presidency. The border wall may or may not be built, but it will survive as a rallying point, an allegorical tombstone marking the end of American exceptionalism. Good Lord. Okay. All right. So, okay. So this comes out in March. I think I will wait. I think I will wait a bit. That sounds like a mighty downer of a book. Fascinating. But, okay, I'm gonna wait on that until I get a finished copy. And then we have the boxes. We have boxes, and then we'll be done. How are we doing for time? Oh God, another 30-minute video. Let's see. It's another finished copy. What is this? Do you want some cardboard, Bean? You do. Let's see. So what the? It's wrapped in plastic. I don't want anything wrapped in plastic. Oh God, help us. All right. This is a moment of reckoning that was going to come anyway. I can refuse to meet the eyes of the advance copy all I want. It tolls for thee. This is. Oh God. Okay. I tell you, sometimes I don't know how I'll upstand these people. This is Alexander Solzhenitsyn. This is Between Two Millstones. Sketches of Exile, 1974 to 1978. And this is a memoir to celebrate the centenary of Solzhenitsyn's birth. The University of Notre Dame Press, that's who's doing this, will publish the first English translation of Book 1 of his Memoir of the West. Because everything with this guy is Book 1. I swear. I swear. His grocery list left for his housemaid were 10 pages long. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, a Soviet political prisoner from 1945 to 1953, is widely acknowledged as one of the most important figures and perhaps the most important writer of the last century. There's some competition. There's some Russian competition. The publication of One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich in 1962 made Solzhenitsyn famous. He won the Nobel Prize in 1970, and the Gulag Archipelago, published to worldwide acclaim in 1974, further unmasked communism and would play a critical role in its eventual defeat. Okay. All right. Well, I don't know about the Gulag Archipelago playing a critical role in the defeat of communism, but I do recommend reading it. It's brutal. Just an unbelievably brutal book. Relentlessly so. But it is brilliant. It is just glowingly brilliant. Let's see here. In response to the Gulag Archipelago, Solzhenitsyn was exiled to the West in 1974, where he would continue to work on his opus. Over his life, he published dozens of novels, works of history, nonfiction, and memoir, as well as poems and plays. He never stopped writing. And this is, the publish sheet refers to this as the literary event of the first magnitude. Between two millstones, dramatically reflects the pain of Solzhenitsyn's separation from his Russian homeland and the chasm of miscomprehension between him and Western society. Feelings mutual, Bob. All right, well, yikes. So what have we got for details here? When does this come out? Bean, are you sure you don't want paper instead? The cardboard is clearly defeating you. This comes out at the end of August, on Halloween. And I had the advance copy, and I have not got around to it. It has beckoned to me sternly from across the room many times as I have traipsed back and forth between lists of books and giant shark novels, but ask not for whom the brilliant Soviet writer tolls. He tolls for thee. So I will get to this week. And then we've got the last box. We have a chance here. We have a chance to dig ourselves out. What is this last box? So it's 2 books. What have we got here? Oh, great. Okay, fantastic. All right, these are what is apparently going to be my monthly shipment from Angry Robot Press. They are a very good publisher of science fiction. I read everything they send me, and I have found many good books, many authors I intend to follow for the rest of their career. So what have we got? We've got two trade paperbacks this time around, no mass markets, and I think they're both November books. This one is The Subjugate, and it's by Amanda Bridgman. That is the cover. Let's see here. 2 troubled homicide detectives race to find a serial killer in a town filled with surgically reformed murderers. Oh, that is awesome. In this captivating near-future SF thriller. In a small religious community rocked by a spree of shocking murders, Detective Salvi Brent and Mitch Grenville find themselves surrounded by suspects. The children of Christ have a tight grip on their people, and the Soulmate complex neurally edit violent criminals, subjugates, into placid servants called Serenes. Oh, you're just asking for trouble when you set the system like that. In a town where purity and sin, temptation and repression live side by side, everyone has a motive. But as the bodies mount up, the frustrated detectives begin to crack under the pressure. Their demons come to light, and who knows where that blurred line between man and monster lies. So this is going to be a pretty explicit fusion of murder mystery and science fiction. So I guess now I want to know the usual question with this, which is this like part of a series or something? I don't get the impression from that description that it is. Amanda Bridgman is an Aurealis Award finalist and the author of 7 science fiction novels, including the best-selling space opera Aurora series and the apocalyptic drama The Time of the Stripes. And she lives in Perth. No mention of anything else, and that plot sounds like I could jump right in. I certainly will jump right in. I rely on Angry Robot now for science fiction because I don't get a lot of science fiction in the mail. And what is this next one? Oh, okay, all right. This next one is indeed a sequel, but fortunately, it's a sequel to a book that I read and liked. So I don't really need to worry about it. I can hunt for the copy that I might have here, but I remember it well enough. This is by Tristan Palmgren, and it's called Terminus, and it's the sequel to Quietus. That is the cover. It's another trade paperback. Operatives from an advanced alien culture struggle to survive in medieval Italy in the sequel to the astonishing Quietus, which I really did like. The transdimensional empire, the Unity, has dissolved. Its rulers and agents have been exiled, stranded across 1,000 planes of existence. Empires don't die gladly. The living planar ship Ways and Means has ended the Black Death ravaging medieval Europe, but it has bigger plans for Earth. Someone is trying to kill the former Unity agent Osea. Spy-turned-anthropologist Meloku becomes a target too when she catches the planar ship hiding the extent of its meddling. While they fight to survive, Fiammetta, Italian soldier, mercenary, and heretical preacher, raises an army and a religious revolt, aiming to split her world in half. So, as you can tell from that description here, you really don't want to read this book until you've read Quietus, but you should read Quietus, because it'll be at your bookstores, and it's really good. Let's see. And about our author, Tristan Palmgren has been a clerk, a factory technician, a university lecturer, a cashier, a secretary, a retail manager, a rural coroner's assistant. In his lives on parallel Earths, he has been an ant farm tycoon, funeral home enthusiast, professional con artist and impersonator, laser pointer chaser, and that guy who somehow landed a trademark for the word avuncular. And he lives with his wife in Columbia, Missouri. And the most amazing, the most astonishing detail of that author description is that he found a woman willing to put up with him. Good for her. Or maybe not. So, all right, fantastic. So this is the sequel to Quietus. And these are, like I said, these are both November books. So we end this with a little science fiction. Okay, so now we'll do a Steve pile. That was a nice, big, full mail haul, full of variety, which I love. Okay, so we'll start with our firmest basis possible. And you know what the firm basis possible is, BookTube? Misery. That's what it is. Misery and despair. There's no more solid a foundation for a Steve pile than misery and despair. So we have Between Two Millstones, that laugh riot. Oh, Alexander Solzhenitsyn. Then we have The End of the Myth by Greg Grandin. We have The Life of Saul Bellow by Zachary Leader. I read the first volume and loved it. Can't wait to read this one. We have Midnight in Chernobyl. So far, the worst nuclear disaster in peacetime. And Devices and Desires. A new book about Bess of Hardwick. The Paragon Hotel by Lindsay Fay, which is about Alice James, but not our bookish Alice James. Another Alice, just someone with that name. And what else have we got here? Oh, the final act, yes. Soviet diplomacy, momentarily taking the place of Soviet brinkmanship. Then, let's see, the two science fiction books, The Subjugate, which seems like a standalone novel, and then Terminus, which is the sequel to Quietus. And then we have the Book of Revelation, a biography of the Book of Revelation, and then this oversized thing. A history of the radio flyer. Isn't that incredible? So that is our mail haul for today. Not bad at all. And that will do. Oh, I'm supposed to show you. I've got many requests to show the destruction. There is the destruction, and there is a little bean who's so tired from her destruction that she has pooped out. She is sleeping on her handiwork. She'll get her second win, don't you worry. But in the meantime, I'm going to console her because she's exhausted. But I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.